Stop monitoring what you left in God's hands. Trust God and rest. Tweeted by Real Talk Kim. Hey everyone, welcome to Tuesday's episode of the Toya Talks podcast. My name's Toya Washington. It has been a week since I recorded a podcast episode, and it feels like it's been a really long time, or at least a lot has happened in the time in which I haven't recorded. I will say that I have been really unwell. I'm still really sick, and for me, a job worth doing is worth doing well. I'm never going to just record and do half a podcast or be half-assed at anything I do in my life. Whatever I put my name to, I always try to do it to the best of my ability. So anytime I feel that I would fall short, I'd rather just not record. This is going to be a dilemma episode, but there are going to be a few things that we discuss before we get into the dilemmas. I will also say that I know that some of these dilemmas have been in the mailbox since last week, but obviously I was off ill, and I hope that the people who anonymously sent their dilemmas in will understand that unfortunately in that condition I'm not going to be able to also give adequate advice because I'm not 100% myself. Whilst I'm still ill, I feel well enough to at least record. I'm actually recording from my sick bed, to be honest, because I can't sit at my desk for longer than a few minutes at a time. So working remotely often means that I've got to bring the laptop to the bed, or if I'm at my desk, I'm at my desk for like half an hour and then move my location so I'm just a little bit more comfortable. Whenever I've recorded an episode, or the fact that I kind of bring my blueprint to the podcast, I do that freely. I do it because I am a successful black woman in my career, and I don't have two heads. I just have loads of experience. I've got loads of trauma from my work experiences, and I've worked out the blueprint of how to be successful in the workplace, irrespective of what you do for a living. I've always said this, and I'm going to repeat it. This podcast is not just for people who work in the corporate world. I no longer work in the corporate world. I haven't been in the corporate world for almost 10 years. My success has come from working in different industries and being able to work my way up in my profession, but understand how to navigate predominantly white spaces, where I am often a minority, not just because I'm a woman, but also because I'm a black woman. So when I come here and share my experiences in the hope that I'll be able to teach others, guide others, and educate others how to navigate the world of work, I don't expect to receive certain messages from people, almost this entitlement. This is an entitlement you don't even have in your own offices, but some people have this entitlement to feel that I should justify why I haven't recorded a podcast. And I'm just going to be very clear. No one taught me how to edit. No one helps me with this podcast. I do the treatment, I record it, I've invested in my recording equipment, I've upgraded my recording equipment, all my financial input, yeah? No loans, no grants, all my money. And then I edit. So I've had to teach myself how to edit a podcast, and then I upload. I don't do this for the money, because I'll be honest with you. If I did it for the money, I wouldn't be doing this podcast, yeah? I'll earn six figures because of the money I make through my career, through my investments, and through my businesses. It's not through the podcast. The podcast for me has always been, I see it as giving back to my community, because I truly believe that if we share and give the blueprint, we make it easier. We lift the lid on what is often kept as a secret. We lift the lid on conversations that are never had. And we lift the lid on what's made into a taboo to stop us all from progressing. You see, if you stop people from sharing how much they earn, or if you stop people from discussing how much they earn in an industry, what you do is you close people off from from reaching their earning potential, because you remove the ability of transparency. And that's how I see the podcast and the blueprint. If I don't do this, I allow the world of work to be shrouded in the mysteries that it has done for so long, as to the reason why I grew up with a lot of trauma from the workplace. If I knew a lot of what I know now when I started, I tell you, I would have been successful quicker. I would have avoided a lot of traumas, and therefore avoided a lot of triggers. And to come on this podcast every week for the last, I think it's almost 3 years I've been doing this podcast, I have honestly felt so blessed to even be in a position where I can almost be like a big sister, and be almost like a safe space for Black women to come and share and talk and discuss. So you can understand how I feel so disrespected that I'm not allowed the grace to be sick, because somebody wants to know why I'm sick. Why haven't you recorded a podcast? You don't have any right to question me. Any right. And I can be very disrespectful if you take it there with me. You disrespect me, I am going to disrespect you, because you do not pay my bills, you do not wipe my asshole when I've had a shit in the toilet, you do not come with me for a smear test, you are not there when I'm vomiting, you are not there when I have a high fever, you're not there when I had COVID. Like, I think everybody needs to package themselves very well and understand that you need to face your front. You see, the energy you have in questioning why somebody is not something, or questioning why somebody can't do something, if you had that energy for your own careers and that determination to navigate, a lot of us would be navigating a lot more peacefully. You see, a lot of the commotion that we find ourselves in are often for the choices that we make. Yeah, when you come into someone's DMs and you feel entitled, you're making a choice. That choice is to infiltrate somebody's peace, and what you are doing is welcoming that person to cuss your ass. That's what you're doing. And I'm going to be very, very clear. I have boundaries. I talk about these boundaries all the time as a reminder to people. I have never begged, I've never stolen, and I do not borrow. Yeah? I am that person. I face my front and I mind my business. Don't come looking for my problem, because you will find it. I'm a very peaceful person. But when you want war, I will give you war. If you want peace, I will give you peace. I am unwell and I am struggling, and I need to be given the same grace that you expect me to give you. You need to give me that grace. Do not come into my DMs with your dilemmas, because I cannot remember every single little thing. I can't remember. And 9 times out of 10, I'm going to forget your dilemma. If you email hello@toyatalks.com, I have 2 assistants now. I pay my assistants. I hired them with my money to manage the admin side and the back end of the Toya Talks Academy. So they are the ones that are able to organize me. If a dilemma comes through, they know how to reach me. They know how to put it in folders. They know how to draw my attention to certain things and keep the business ticking. If you're coming to me with Toya Talks Academy issues, I cannot help you. So let us just respect everybody's boundaries. The DMs, my personal Instagram is very lighthearted. Like, the people that come into my DMs, like we might have a little laugh. Maybe I've posted something they find funny. Maybe they want to share something with me that they've seen on social media, and we keep it light. Anything to do with the podcast, the academy, I'd like you to email. Because what I don't want to do is get to a point where I'm blocking you. Because if you're being a blockhead, then I have to block you. For me, it's taken a lot of time for me to learn how to give myself grace. It's taken a lot of time for me to understand how to self-care, that I deserve self-care. It's taken me a lot of time to learn how to be kind to myself, because I haven't always been very kind to myself. I've treated myself in a way that isn't very kind. And I don't know what it is about us as Black women that think that we should always be on the job 24/7. That is toxic, Where as Black women, we don't give ourselves any days off. It's almost like if you're not working your finger to the bone and dropping dead on the floor, then you ain't working hard. And it's toxic. And I know where it comes from. But then how can I critique where it comes from if as black women, we're not policing our own self-care? We're not policing ourselves in making sure that we are accessing the self-care that we deserve. I'll give you an example. A lot of us work so hard. We work hard for them coins. And some of us are so scared to take annual leave. Sometimes you are just literally, as you're typing, go, you're typing even the wrong thing. You're getting your password wrong every time it's time to log on to this computer. And you know why? Because we don't give ourselves the grace to even know when we need a break from work. You don't have energy to request time off, but you've got energy to come and request why I have taken time off to self-care. That's fucking crazy. I feel like we all need to reevaluate our minds. As we're coming to the last quarter of the year. Oh, we're here already, Abby. Mm-hmm. We need to reevaluate our minds. Because some of you have been every year going into every year with the same bullshit. Then you get the same bullshit results and then you're doing New Year's resolution. Why can't your New Year's resolution be that I have fucked up, I have messed up, I have not self-cared, I have not done this, and I need to do better, because if not, I'm disappointing myself. You see how I haven't used the F word, failing myself. I don't like using the F word. But we need to package ourselves. Some of you are not packaging yourself properly. You see, I can sit here and tell you all the blueprint required to navigate the world of work. But unless you do the self-work, unless you do the packaging yourself, it's futile me sharing certain things with you. It's easy for us to just conclude that everything is wrong with the world, or it's white people in the workplace, or it's non-black people in the workplace. And whilst they carry some responsibility, as black women, we have to carry some accountability of our responsibility in how we navigate. If you are getting the same results all the time, you are the common denominator. You are able to make choices to change certain things to yield different results. Do you understand what I'm saying? I come here and I'm selfless. I'm actually selfless. Do you know how many opportunities come through my mailbox? I get at least twice a week opportunities that come through my mailbox, and I'm just not interested. I'm not interested in being famous. I've told you guys this. Been there, done that already. Anything that doesn't align to the success of black women, you can't find me there doing it. Do you think that I haven't been asked to go on certain interviews on certain channels? Do you think that certain brands haven't come to me and asked me, basically, if they can leverage my brand to access the safe space? And I say no. I don't say no because I don't want the money. I don't say no because I'm not interested. I say no because the premise of what I do here means so much to me, and I know how many of you trust my view and my opinion, and I hold that in such high regard that I'm unwilling to compromise that for cheap change or for short time cheap fame. I'm unwilling to do that, and I definitely do think that because I have tasted a little bit of the fame, I can tell you that all that glitters is not gold, and it stinks. And unless you're willing to compromise yourself and keep up with the Joneses, you're not going to actually reach the success people expect you to in terms of like fame and stuff. And I'm just not there. I'm not with it. It's temporary. I've watched people fall from grace. I've watched people forget about, the real reason why. And for me, like even on my vision board, the ethos of what Toya Talks is centered on my vision board. I'm reminded every single day of what the vision is. So every time I get a success story, or someone comes in the DMs with a success story, or someone emails a success story, or even the people that don't engage, but I know that wherever they're praying and they're thankful for what they have learned and how they've used it proactively for their own success. That to me is worth money. It's worth more than money, more than fame, more than anything, because it means that I'm actively making a difference in my community. I'm actively making a change in the way in which, as black women, we ascertain success. I'm making a difference in taking off the rose-tinted specs and taking off the illusion that's created from education to really show people what the real is, so that we are walking into the world of work, or we're walking into entrepreneurship with clear vision, clear goals, clear targets, and a clear understanding of how to navigate. That is all that is important to me. If I was to die tomorrow, get knocked over by a bus, drop dead in the street, there is a body of work that I've created. That's my legacy. That's my input into my community. And maybe there is some more things that I could be doing, but this is what I have chosen to do, based on what has been given to me, based on my experiences, and based on the knowledge that I have. This is what I would like to pour into my community. So I don't expect anyone to come with their sure in my DMs, or coming with the don't come with that shit, because I'm not about it. And when I'm ill, I get very rude and I get very disrespectful. And when I go down that way, you're not going to know how to cope. Even as you're messaging, you'll even be sweating. Let's all respect each other. Respect each other's space. Respect each other's time. Respect each other's personal trials and tribulations. Let's just respect that just because somebody doesn't come online and tell you Tom, Dick and Harry about their life doesn't mean they ain't going through their own personal challenges. More importantly, when you don't have that energy for your boss, don't give that energy for somebody you don't even fucking know. All right then. So, let's move on. I think the message has been received, Abby. So recently, you would have heard, especially last week, tail end of last week, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Kwesi. I don't know, should we call him uncle? I don't know if we can even call him that, because people are like, oh, he's a black man, da 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 da. But some of the rhetoric that he's been spewing, I mean, I don't know if he knows he's a black man every time he looks in the mirror. But anyway, these Tories are really, they're very raza. It's funny, isn't it? Because the UK will then turn around and say, oh, Africa's corrupt. The leaders are corrupt. Go. If you just stand in front of number 10 Downing Street, you can smell the corruption. It's smelling. Where is Dominic Cummings, please? When that man took his burn folder and his burn box and he left through the front door, my man was on crud. Ever since his cruddery has commenced, there's been chaos in that number 10. Number 10. There's been chaotic in that number 10. Kwesi. So, he, the Chancellor of Exchequer, he is a Ghanaian man, and he's actually married to a white woman. Me, I've done my research, and I do question a lot of the things that he has said in the past. And in my head, like I said, I do question, does he know he's black? Because sometimes I don't know if he knows. Anyway, so he basically discussed the new budget, changes to tax, and it was really interesting because it affects everybody. So national insurance, IR35, and I just want to talk about IR35 for a moment, because in past episodes I've discussed it before. I think I even have an episode on IR35. So those people who are contractors, i.e. you're working for your limited company, what he has said about IR35 is that he's repealing the position on IR35. So a lot of us were stung really badly, because before we were able to determine whether we were working inside of IR35, which means if you're working inside of IR35, you get taxed at source. Usually you're working through an umbrella company as well. And your assignment is determined by the client as to whether it is IR35 inside or out. Now, when the new legislation, new rules came into place, what's that guy's name? I was going to call him Doris. And Risky Rishi. They said, IR35, they wanted to basically stiff us. And that's exactly what they did. And it also meant that those people that were working outside of scope, HMRC was sniffing. It also meant that because you're working inside of scope, because it was often determined by the client, it also meant that you couldn't, what's the word now? You couldn't expense anything. So if it goes through, basically, if you're expensing certain things through your limited company, it brings down your corporation tax effectively. So in repealing IR35, we are still waiting for further information. I just want to say that because I feel like everyone's getting really excited. But just because he's repealing it, he's also said that there's further information to follow. But effectively what it means is that we are now going to be able, as contractors, to determine our IR35 status. It's no longer in the hands of organizations. For organizations, it's easy for them to just put us in the bracket of inside IR35. They don't have to then be worried about any blowback from HMRC. They tax us at source, but it financially puts us in a really bad position because you were probably, whatever you were earning before, so let's say you were earning, so basically, if you were earning, I don't know. If you're earning like 20,000 a month, you're probably now earning 10,000 a month if you're inside scope. And you're not able to expense things. And to be honest with you, it's smelly. So we're now able to determine our IR35 status. I believe it's from April next year. Further information between now and April will come out where, they'll be able to tell us, certain things in relation to IR35. What exactly are they repealing? Obviously, we know the status now. The determination of IR35 now moves to the consultant to decide. And it means also that agencies and management consultancies where you work outside of IR35 have more power to determine the status. I feel like a lot of these employment agencies just say, oh, it's inside scope. If you dig deeper, you're working on a project, there's a determined time that it finishes, determined time that it starts. You're basically a consultant working on a project inside scope. It doesn't make sense. But the thing is, when the new legislation came into effect with IR35, it really arrested us, didn't it? Because we weren't able to challenge with confidence because all the roles that were coming out were inside scope. That you get a few and far between roles outside scope. Like I saw a few roles within my industry that were outside scope, but a lot of us would be applying at the same time, and sometimes it will even drive the day rate down. Do you understand? Luckily, there's some of us that were able to still stay outside scope. However, those who were in scope would mean that you'd have to get as high a day rate as possible to almost try to pad the loss. Yeah. I think it gives contractors the opportunity to actually be contractors. We take a lot of risks as contractors. Number one, we don't get paid holidays if you're outside scope. We have to sort out our insurances, for example. Is it public liability and things like that? Also, I need to renew mine actually. Also as well, we take a lot of risk in a sense that some of our notice period is a 1 week mutual, 2 weeks mutual even. But the point is, just because you're a contractor, and maybe as contractors, yeah, we do earn a lot more money, but we take a lot more risks. You have to hire an accountant, you have to file your taxes, you have to file your corporation tax. There was a limit to how much dividends you can take before you hit the higher threshold. These are all the risks we take. And I feel like if you are a subject matter expert and you work on a project, you work from a project standpoint, you should be able to determine your IR35 status. You assume that risk, you make sure you have a good accountant, and you are responsible for making sure that you are not disguised as an employee. That is our responsibility. And those seasoned contractors, we know what we're doing and we know how to do it. I think that a lot of us have weathered the storm of that legislation that came through with IR35. We have stayed contractors, but I know a lot of my friends who have been career contractors that have gone to perm, and I know that was very hard for them, but for them they needed what they thought was a level of security that they couldn't get as a contractor. And I always said to my friends, those who went perm, I said there's still no security there anyway, because if they want to get rid of you, they'll just give you more headache as a perm to get rid of you than they would as a contractor. But as contractors, we're built to take risk. So even for me, there was a point where I was also considering perm, but it was a consideration. For me, the bar was so high that I knew that going perm would like, a lot of things would have to shift for that to happen. God so kind, I'd like to think that I don't have to go to perm for a really long time. I'm a career contractor. I love the freedom. I love the ability to work for myself. I also love the ability to be able to kind of jump from project to project. And no one's asking you stupid questions. Why did you leave the last role? Why didn't you ga? The fact is, you're a contractor. It's expected that when your assignment finishes, yeah, you get extension, great. You don't, you move on. And ever since the announcement of repealing the IR35, which basically I reinforce means that we will now be able to determine our IR35 status, I have seen a lot more out of IR35 roles across different industries. And I think some people who do not understand how it's going to impact them, you need to talk to your accountant. I've just given you a rough overview of IR35 and how it works. I think that there's certain industries that are really going to, really benefit, like project managers. You guys have always really been outside of IR35, but I think you guys are going to be a bit more confident now that you don't necessarily have to worry about being misdetermined by an organization as being inside scope when you believe it's outside. But by virtue that you are a project manager working on a project that a determined end date, you're exclusively working on one particular project, you can have an alternate. Those things are enough to determine that you're outside of scope. The finance industry, I feel like, are really going to enjoy this repeal. And irrespective of how we all feel about the Tories, I mean, I have to take the win where I find it. That's a win. Now, does it mean that I'm going to now become a Tory? God forbid. But I'm just going to say, from a taxation perspective, I know how hard I get hit on my tax. I get hit hard. In April, I'm expecting one of those beautiful brown letters from HMRC to come and tell me that they owe me money. I'm paying tax through the nose. In fact, if you walk past me, you might hear the word tax. That's how much tax I'm paying. And then on top of it, when I try and access things like the NHS, I get told bullshit. So you can understand why my energy, I don't have energy for not being able to access what I pour into. I literally pour into my tax. Okay? I don't know if this is a ploy, when they frustrate with the NHS, maybe it's a ploy for us to go private. The fact is, yes, I have the option to go private and I access it as I like, but I'll also be using NHS in tandem because I'm paying for it. Yeah, nothing in this world is for free. If you sign up to the gov.uk website, at the end of the financial year, they tell you where all your taxes have gone. And that will allow you to know that you should be able to access certain things because you've paid into it. Thank you. Currently, I am enjoying Married at First Sight Season 2 on Channel 4. Hello, if you're not watching it, you need to get your butts there. Get your butts there quick and go and watch it. Do you know what I find interesting? What I find interesting is, up until a few years ago, it was such a taboo to kind of meet somebody on a social networking site. So, for example, Tinder. Now, let me be a living example. I met Kay on Tinder. We have been together for 5 years, married for 1 year. Yeah, and I met Kay on Tinder. I was one of those people that knew that my husband was not in this country, honey, because the UK is the bin. I widened my location of consideration. Kay was in Belgium. The rest is history. Thank you. If a man is interested in you, he will make that effort. He will buy those plane ticket. He will buy that Eurostar ticket. You guys will go one day. He will even pay for you to go there. Yeah, Kay did that. You'll spend time, you get to know each other. And even if it doesn't work, at least you can say that you're enjoying the dating process. I enjoyed my dating process, yeah? And when I first met Kay, I'd already gone on several other dates with different people. I've told you guys before, I believed in non-sexual dating. Yeah, because I need my mind to be free when I was dating. I can't convolute it with sex. People distracting us with their sex. No, that's nonsense. And then because I'd opened my mind to date, when I met Kay, it made sense to me that he was serious because I met so many different people who weren't serious. I wasn't dating exclusively. I was dating different people at the same time. I was having fun. I enjoyed eating in different places. This is when I knew restaurants have separate drinks menu, because the type of restaurants I used to go to before I was dating, they had one dinner menu and the drinks menus in the dinner menu. My dear, when you start dating people of substance, they will be taking you to places where they have separate menu for drink, separate menu for dessert, the separate menu for food. Yeah, it's true. My dear, the dating used to be the ghetto. And I know sometimes it still is the ghetto, but there's different degree of ghetto. I'm telling you. When you're going to dates at Nando's, that's hella ghetto. I went to date at Nando's. I told you guys. I was ordering, what's that one? Something and herbs. Lemon and herb, or lime and herb. He was a bloody herb. Stupid. Anyway, Married at First Sight. So with Married at First Sight, basically they trust I don't even know if you were going to call them the experts, but they trust a bunch of experts to basically, you know, I don't even know the word I'm looking for. They fight basically a bunch of experts match people on compatibility. The first time they see each other is in the altar. They walk down the aisle and they get married. And then they basically almost work backwards because they then date each other even though they're married. And then every few weeks they'll have to decide if they want to stay or go. And I don't know how this marriage one day works, because I feel like if it doesn't work, I don't know if they get an annulment. I don't know. I'm very interested in that. Someone needs to share. If you know, let me know. I might have to go on TikTok. So what I'm loving is we have different races, we have different sexuality, and we have a reflection of society in the couples, and that's really nice to see. Now, somebody that stands out to me is Kwame. Kwame's a Ghanaian guy, yeah? And the lady that he's with, I can't remember her name, very beautiful black queen. And he's just not that into her. The way she was offering and wanting sex, yeah, it was very uncomfortable because he just was not interested. And his excuse was that he just be having sex the first time and it doesn't work. So this time he's trying to do something different. Look at all those lies jumping out of his teeth. When she was walking up the aisle, he said that he's not used to being with women that are thick. This man is talking like he is like Morris Chestnut. Like he's talking like, when God made him, God made man. He's not all that. He's just the typical aesthetic, you know. He's not even tall. I think he's 5'7". He's not all that. Yeah, he's dark skin, bold, goatee, all of that. That is my type, to be fair, because that K is that. But the fact is, he's not all that. He isn't. And I think the way he carries himself is making him to be like unattractive. This woman that he's married to, she'll be dressing in all these sexy clothes. In fact, she dressed in one type leggings. The leggings was literally choking her thighs, and she was bending down, and then it popped. And then you'd think that he would be attractive, and he was like, "Oh my God, you've got a hole in your bum." You know, he's just not that into her. And watching their dynamic is quite interesting because I feel like she's a lovely woman. She specifically said that she wanted a West African man. But I don't think that she was ready for West African wahala, because I feel like people who are non-African see African men, especially West African men, as the prize. What a lot of women are not understanding is African men in general are a headache. West African men need Panadol. You need it to deal with them. Do you understand? This is why I went to East Africa. Don't get it twisted. East African men, they have their own type of Nurofen. You understand? But I feel like she had painted a picture of the type of man that she wanted. She saw him, but she didn't account for the fact that he may not be into her. Now, she's a very beautiful woman, very voluptuous, but very beautiful, and her soul is so nice. But seeing their dynamic is often quite uncomfortable, but I'm here to watch because I'm here for the mess. We've got another couple, the tattooed couple, and the woman's name is Gemma, and all she does is talk about sex. She makes sexual jokes, and it's very uncomfortable. She's so attracted to the guy that she's married to, quite rightly so. But he wants her to just like slow it down with the sexual talk all the time. And what is actually quite interesting is how she uses sex to determine whether a guy likes her, and the guy she's married to is just not like that. For him, like, I think he would have been willing to have sex with her on the first night if she wasn't so vulgar about it. But the irony there is that if the roles were reversed and the guy was doing this, the way everybody will be hashtagging Me Too movement. But I feel like it's a different measure of what is acceptable because it's a woman doing it. And I think it's rude, I think it's disrespectful, and it's uncomfortable to watch. Every time she does sexual jokes, even I'm cringing because I'm just thinking, my dear, can we not have some decorum? We know you want to sex him, and we know that. And apparently there was in a restaurant and she was simulating masturbation because she just wants to sex the guy. It's just, I don't understand. But again, we're diving into her psychology of how she relates to men and what she uses to kind of feel like she's needed. And in a way, it's actually quite sad if you think about it. If you have to reduce everything to sex because you feel like that's all you have to offer in order for a man to find you physically attractive. And I think what it makes us do is it makes us really think about how we view relationships, marriage, and things like that. Because I'm just going to say to everybody's talking about marriage. Every day I'm on TikTok, somebody's making jollof rice and corned beef, as in, if I can cook, my man's going to come. I need you to understand, marriage is not a joke. The first year of marriage is probably the hardest. And whatever the fantasy they're selling you about marriage is completely the opposite. Because you genuinely have to work on your marriage. You genuinely have to work how to coexist with another person who was, okay, you maybe have similar backgrounds, but was brought up completely differently to you. You have to then work through all your childhood trauma that may be triggered from a relationship that you're with. Maybe you've seen marriage in a certain way, and maybe your marriage is not operating in that way. Then it triggers something. And you have to hope that you're with somebody supportive enough to, number one, support you, number two, highlight these things to you, and maybe even encourage you to get therapy. But you have to also be able to compromise and have patience, because you need those things to at least get you through. And I can say, a year under my belt, I'm married to my best friend, but the marriage requires a lot of work. It's not a walk in the park. And while me and Kay do get on really well, there's times when we don't get on very well. And there's times when we do need space from each other. And there's times when you do sit there and hope that you're in a marriage that's going to last long. Because remember, we talk about taking risks. Marriage is taking risks as well. You're taking a risk that the person wants what you want, or you have shared wants. You also taking a risk with that person in the hope that it's going to last. No one gets married to get divorced. Do you understand? And remember, you can't account for what somebody else is thinking, the decisions they're making, how they're processing things. And it's the same for you. You know, that person that you're marrying also has their own fears. You know, it's not a walk in the park. And I think Married at First Sight really highlights those things. The work you have to do and what you have to sow in order to reap the benefits of a healthy marriage. And I think that is what Married at First Sight does. Because not everybody, because I have a few friends that are not interested in getting married, but a majority of people who want to get married are falling in love with the aesthetics, the dancing, the dressing, the music, the la 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 la. But the reality is that when all that is said and done and you close the door, it's just you two facing each other. It's you two facing each other. Have you done the pre-work before you get married? Have you, people talk about marriage counselling, but have you gone to marriage therapy for you individually as a person? Have you sat down and really spoke about what the future looks like? Do you have a shared understanding about what the future looks like? Do you both want children? Maybe one of you wants kids and the other one doesn't. Have you had those conversations? Those people are having those conversations in their marriage. So Married at First Sight, they're having those conversations in the marriage that they met the person at the altar. So in a way, I think it's great that we all watch it, because when you rush into marriage and you're not having these pre-conversations and you're not taking your time to date, you're not doing all these things, and you rush to the altar, you're having to do things backwards. And that's what we're watching is the hope that these couples are relying on the experts to have matched them correctly, that they can have an actual marriage at the end. And what we are learning as viewers is what happens when you just go straight to marriage without doing the pre-work. So let us all sit there and learn is what I that's my penny's worth. And there is a lot of drama, there's all of this. But in a way, that's very true of the world. You're not married in an island. You're married in life. So you're having to navigate friends, navigate society, navigate your neighbours, navigate people, and the difference is, they're all brought together from this experiment, but all the other couples represent different parts of society in which we live in. So I definitely think those of you who have not watched Married at First Sight UK, Season 2 on Channel 4, and it's on Monday to Thursday. If you haven't watched it, go on catch up. You guys are in for a treat. I wish I could watch it from the beginning, but I'm watching from season 2. I didn't watch season 1, and I give it a very healthy 9.5 out of 10. Also, as well, something else that I'm watching is, you know, the Kardashians on Hulu. I've been watching the first episode, and you know what? Yeah, I have empathy. I have empathy because at the end of the day, Khloe Kardashian is a woman. And as a woman, we have empathy. But, well, some of us do. But I can't help but feel, how can I feel sorry for this woman when I already know that when she was dating Tristan had already got another girl pregnant, another girl called Jordan pregnant. Khloe didn't give a shit. Khloe still went ahead and she got pregnant. Then after all said and done, Tristan has been cheating on her like a dog on heat. And she had the cheek to say to Jordan Woods, "You destroyed my family." She's never apologized for that. When her and her sisters were bullying, because that's what it was, bullying with Malika, the follower. And Malika, I can't stand Malika and Khadijah, because I just think the way they're licking ass, honey, it's stinky. And they were bullying a fellow black woman, Jordan Woods. And she, you know what? I call her a woman, but at the time she was a young woman. And they bullied her. Even Kylie had to intervene and say, "Can you stop doing these things on social media because it's breaking her?" Not one of them have ever seen her as a young lady. They treated her like she was on their womanhood level. And they basically ostracized her, bullied her, and tried to discredit her. Khloe Kardashian has never apologized. What Khloe Kardashian is not understanding is there's a karma that is wrapped around her legs, wrapped around her arms. And the only way to be set free is for her to apologize to Jordan. I'm sorry, it's a spiritual thing. She will never, ever, ever, ever be able to make peace with that situation with Tristan until she apologizes to Jordan and means it. Because that apology is that I'm not sitting here saying Jordan's innocent, but it takes 2 to tango and 2 to merengue. That's what I'm saying. And as far as I'm concerned, the way she opened Tristan in with open arms, you forgave him. Yes, you did, because you had another child with him through a surrogate. You two were playing house. Even though you're trying to play hard to get, there was nothing hard. He had already gotten it. But yet you still decided that it was okay to treat another woman like the way she treated Jordan, and didn't for once think about, couldn't they both be culpable? And if she chose to forgive Tristan, okay, fine, because he's the father of your child. We're not asking you to forgive Jordan. We're asking you to treat her with decency, because the way these Kardashians deal with black women like they're disposable is disgusting, it's toxic, and it's dangerous. And the way they dealt with that young girl, if it wasn't for the fact that Jordan had already the Smiths around her, she has a strong family around her, that could have broken her. That could have destroyed her. See how Jordan Woods is now flourishing. Imagine she's her boyfriend that she's with for Jordan's birthday present. He's basically going to invest in 2 companies of her choice that she is developing. If that isn't building, I don't know what that is. If that isn't good karma, I don't know what that is. So these Kardashians, when they're crying every 5 minutes, this Khloe, every time her eyes get crystals because she's crying, she needs to remember in her mind that she sowed a seed of bad karma, and she needs to go and apologize to that girl and mean it. Because Tristan has struck again and Jordan is nowhere in sight. So who is to blame? Is it not Tristan? Khloe, you need to get it together. You used to be my favorite, but you're very annoying. Anywho, let's move on to the dilemmas. Okay. Let's go. I found myself running out of my office building on a random Wednesday afternoon. Dear Toya, thank you so much for your encouraging note. I will send it today, and I will make sure to retain a copy into my burn folder. This is an important email that will serve as a foundation for when I decide to point out the consistent patterns of mistreatment I have faced at the hands of my direct manager. I will keep you posted for what transpires. You are the best. So, there was a young lady that sent me a dilemma, and she basically said that she has an incompetent line manager, and hang on, let me see if I can find the original. So basically, long story short, that the line manager was targeting her and would say quite derogatory things, and they weaponized HR against her. Now, there's a pattern of behavior that's obviously started to emerge, and I needed her to start building a burn folder and also manage the meetings that are being had. And obviously she's going to give us an update of what's happened, but in very clear terms. I think she came to me at the right time when it was still very early, still very fresh, and she already listened to the podcast. So for her, she understood what the telltale signs were. She didn't allow the situation to, go to a certain point, then involve me or then reach out to me. So I did help her draft an email to HR because they tried to catch her unawares. And I haven't heard from her, so I believe she's managing the situation very well, building the burn folder. And effectively, she's creating through the burn folder a catalogue of incidents that have happened that they will forget, to support maybe a grievance or support her position if she now has to come out of the gate swinging. Okay. Next dilemma, microaggressions. Hi Toya, I trust you are well. I just came across your podcast when Googling microaggressions, and I resonated with your episode on HR and microaggressions. I'm currently going through it with HR after being threatened by a director, a white middle-aged man, and constantly being subjected to injurious comments and offensive questions since the start of my tenure. It really angers me how a lot of my experience has been minimized by HR, and it seems he will get away with it. They have hinted if I don't go down the informal route, I'll lose my job. Over the years, I've become accustomed to the inappropriate comments from primarily white counterparts. But being in my 30s and with this incident being so blatantly racially motivated, I had to raise the alarm. I've been told it was probably a misunderstanding. The toxic thing is, because I'm black, I'm too scared to be over emotional or show anger because I'll be branded as aggressive or unhinged, and it will be used as justification for what I experienced. Being black carries such a burden in corporate spaces, and I'm honestly exhausted. Thank you for shedding light in the issues we face with regards to this. Warm regards, Anonymous. Now, I have spoken before on the podcast. Obviously, I've got the HR microaggressions. I've got an episode on, I think the episode is Briefcase Bandicoot. There's a couple more episodes where I talk about a burn folder. But something that I've always been really clear about is our inability to be able to react. And we're almost paralyzed with fear of reacting because we know how it will be used against us. If you continue to listen to the podcast, there's various episodes where I talk about this, how to manage it, how to navigate it. But something that's really important is that they need you to react. That's why they keep trying to get you to react. They need you to react because they need the reason and you're not giving it to them. They're frustrated. So if they frustrate you, if they trigger you enough, if they push you enough, you'll react. And I've said it time without number, being a black woman is our greatest superpower. It's our greatest superpower because they really don't rate us. Then when we come out of the gate swinging, they get shocked. And this is the bit I don't understand. Now, I get it. When you are being threatened by a director, it's intimidating because this is a director. This is somebody who is basically the most senior, if not one of the seniors. And they feel they can do what they want. And I'm going to be honest with you. When they feel that they can do what they want, it's the greatest thing ever. Because they think they're beyond reproach. They think that they're owners of the vineyard. They think that rules and law doesn't apply to them. And then that's when you hit them with the hype issue. Yeah. Queen, go ahead and listen to episode 77, Closet Racist, and then the United Nations of Karma. Go and listen to those 2 episodes. I feel like if you listen to those episodes, not only would it guide you on how to manage your current situation, but I was in a very similar situation. It wasn't with a director, but it was somebody who thought he was a director because he's mad. And basically, let's just say he dropped himself in it. By the time I did a grievance complaint, it was quivering. It wasn't that cold to be quivering. He was quivering, and it was stuttering. When the man was coming with his closet racism, and was being a raging racist, he wasn't stuttering. But when you catch them in their low life behavior, that's when they start stuttering. They don't know what to say because obviously they thought that they're above everything. When you catch them because they underestimated you, then they start quivering, shaking. They'll start telling you that they have a wife at home. I don't give a fuck about your wife at home because you don't give a fuck about your wife at home. And actually, we're in the office, so your wife has nothing to do with your madness. And I dealt with him properly. You know what? Properly. So go ahead and listen to episode 77, Closet Racist, and listen to the episode entitled The United Nations of Karma. You'll find that quite helpful. Right, next dilemma. Okay. Hi Toya, I hope you're doing well and congratulations on your wedding. This dilemma is called His Cousins Into My Business. Just want to ask you a question. I'm getting married in 4 months and I'm in the middle of planning it. My fiance's cousins that live abroad and they don't even talk to me want to be involved in my wedding planning. Of course, because they're trying to live vicariously through your wedding. They called my fiance and told him that they would like me to get them involved. They want to know what I have already bought, what vendors I got, the reception and my bridesmaids. What's that got to do with them? If they want to help, they don't need that information. If they want to help, it's with the things that are outstanding, not the things that have been secured. They want to know what I have bought, what I've already bought, and vendors I got, the reception, my bridesmaids. However, use girls, his cousins, they don't even talk to me on a daily basis. We barely talk, and was wondering why they want to know what I'm doing with my wedding. I'm always distant with them and keep my business to myself. Do you think they just want to be nosy? Thanks, Anonymous. I don't think they want to be nosy. I think they want to be destructive because, let me tell you something here. When people got good intention in their mind, their actions will repeat what's in their mind. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? I go by people's actions. I don't actually go by what people say to me. What people say to me is probably the cherry on the top, but what people do. Now, if they had a clean mind, clean heart, and they genuinely wanted to be involved, they genuinely wanted to help you, they would have contacted you. They went through your cousin, their cousin, i.e. your fiance, because they know they don't have the direct access to you. But this is your wedding and not theirs. That's what they don't understand. It's your wedding, it's not theirs. You and your fiance, it's your two wedding. But the reality is the man, in my experience, is not the one that's going to be in the detail of organization. It's going to be the woman. Everybody knows that. They're going to him because they know they don't have access to you. My problem is, if you want to help somebody with their wedding, why do you care what vendors you're using? Why do they care who your bridesmaids is? Do they know your bridesmaids? Why do they care what you've bought already? That's irrelevant information. The only thing that is relevant information is the things that are outstanding that you feel that you can delegate to them. But what I'm not understanding is how much help can they be when they're abroad? Are they paying for anything? Nope. Are they making decisions? Nope. Who is the head of that organizing? You. So if they can't even communicate with you on a basic level, how are they going to be able to work with you on the outstanding issues? Sis, please, be fast. Face your front. Just say to your fiance, oh, don't worry, I'll get in contact with them. And never get in contact with them. Take it from me, who I basically organized my whole wedding. Now, when I say I organized my wedding, my vendors, everything, my wedding planner, I sorted it out. To be honest with you, and this is how I liked it, to be honest, Kay wasn't really involved until towards the end. When Kay's personality is as such, he'll bring everything together. I'm more the organizer. Yeah, I can't always bring everything together because I get quite flustered. I had sorted out my vendors. I had sorted out everything. You understand? You can't now come and now say to my husband or my fiance at the time, oh, what can I do to help? That's bullshit, because the man ain't going to tell you because he doesn't know. He's not in the detail. And they know this. Yeah? I don't see how they can help and bypass you in the helping. Like, do you understand what I'm trying to say? Like, I don't know why certain women behave like that. Like, some women choose not to use sense and they use violence. And then when war comes, they don't know what to do with it. Sis, I'm going to give you a word of advice. As somebody who has planned their wedding, worked with vendors and dealt with the stress, because I was heavily under a lot of stress. That's probably why, like, leading up to the wedding, I was unwell, I had headaches, I was stressed out, I was having constipation, because it's a lot of stress. And you need to be able to be in an environment where you can breathe and need to feel free. I've also spoken about in previous episodes, if you go back a couple of episodes, I had to let go of some of my bridesmaids because they wasn't playing the role that had been assigned to them. So if there is any advice I can give you, seek peace. And sometimes seeking peace is avoiding war. Avoid them like the blood clot plague. If you need help, you've got bridesmaids. From what I've read, talk to them. Bridesmaids are a duty. Yeah, it's not about wearing the ashobi and walking around with big gele and smiling and showing all your 32 teeth. I think you have 32. I don't know, because I don't know how many teeth we are supposed to have. It says 32. That's not being a bridesmaid. Being a bridesmaid is a duty, serving the bride. You understand? You're sewing in to the ceremony, sewing in to the wedding, and serving the bride. So that's what your bridesmaid should be doing. If you need help, you can go to them. But you are listen, I always say to people, person that pays the invoices plays the tune. You understand? Please avoid problem. If they are genuine, they will come to you. If they haven't come to you, then it ain't genuine. What you don't want to do is give them something to do and they mess it up, they can't do it or whatever. You give them your vendor list now, they'll start contacting your vendors, to introducing themselves. Oh yeah, please seek peace. So hopefully that helps you. I know you sent that in August, so I'm going to email you now just to let you know that I've answered the dilemma in this episode, and I hope that helps. Anyway, I believe, is that the last dilemma? Let me check. I think that is the last dilemma that we have enough time for. The others I can do next week, that came in the last 24 hours, I can do next week. But I am going to draw this episode to a close. Hopefully you have enjoyed this episode. Hopefully I have been able to give you information that is able to support and help you. More importantly, I just really wanted to get through the dilemmas. That was really, really important. And just have a bit of a chat. You know, listen, I understand that the workplace is difficult at the moment, especially all that stuff that happened with the death of the Queen of England and all of that. It's been peak, you understand? And I feel like sometimes we need light-hearted episodes. We need to be able to catch up a little bit. Next week's episode, by the grace of God, I'll be in a position where I can record it quite confidently. I'm going to talk about, I had an episode called The Power of No. I do want to talk about something, and I just encourage you to go and listen to that episode, The Power of No, because it will coincide with hopefully the next episode. And it's also about advantage takers at a workplace. I feel like we always say yes all the time because we feel like we're accepting the job all over again when someone asks us to do something. But sometimes we are the architect of our own headache when we don't say yes. When we don't say no and we say yes. Today I had to say no. Somebody tried to get me to do a procurement exercise, and it was the director of the department, and I wasn't having it. If you don't want to recruit for the clear vacancies in your team, that's up to you. But what you're not going to do is land work on my table that doesn't belong to me. I'm a contract manager. I don't do procurement. And that's exactly what I said in the email. I will tell you the response I got today. Let me tell you something. Navigating the world of work is never easy, especially as black women. And we feel often overlooked and often feel underappreciated. But let me tell you something to be clear. The power has shifted. It's shifted to the contractors, shifted to the employees, and it's about how you use that power. But we have to first recognize that we have that power, and it comes from being a damn good subject matter expert. It comes from understanding how we navigate white spaces or non-black spaces, and really understanding what the dynamic is of a workplace. Unless you're willing to open your mind to those things, you're going to find the world of work very difficult, extremely difficult. I found my voice in the workplace when I found my voice with myself. When I found my voice with myself, I found my voice in the workplace. When I knew who I was as a person, when I became confident in who I am, flaws and all, I was able to find my voice, and I use that voice where I need to advocate for myself. And in the workplace, I find that irrespective of how senior, how much money I make, the reality is I'm always advocating for myself, because they're always forgetting that I have the right to be there. You have the right to be where you are. You didn't beg them for the job. They gave it to you because they saw something in you that they knew was the right fit. You had the expertise. You had the experience. You can't keep saying yes as a way to almost reaffirm that you're supposed to be there. The yes is once when you accept the job. And any yes you say subsequently can't be under duress. It can't be because you're trying to hold on to a job. Because I'm telling you this now. If you allow yourself to continually be crushed in the workplace, there's a way that they will crush you. It will take time to recover. And then you will always be living in the trauma of saying that yes that you never meant to say. But let's cover that properly in detail in next week's episode. And I will start doing the treatment for next week's episode. I know that we need to talk about my wedding blessing. I know you guys are looking forward to that episode, mortgage versus marriage, and it's coming by the grace of Almighty God. If you want to follow me on social media, I am on Instagram. My personal Instagram page is Toya_Washington. My Toya Talks Instagram page is Toya_Talks. I'm also on TikTok, Toya Washington. I'm also on Snapchat, Toya Washington, and of course on Twitter, Toya_W, with the hashtag Toya Talks or Toya Talks Podcast. And yeah, if you have a work-related or life-related dilemma and you think that we can discuss it here, your anonymity will always be protected. Please email hello@toytalks.com. If you are interested in joining the Toy Talks Academy, where we have a variety of masterclasses and some new upcoming masterclasses that will be joining the catalogue of masterclasses, please go on to www.toytalks.com for your masterclasses. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to thank each and every one of you for supporting me, for having my back, for always tuning in, for listening, for learning, and for opening your minds. I wish you a great week, and may the ancestors continue to cover us all. And I will see you again in the next episode of the Toya Talks podcast. My name is Toya Washington, and you have been listening to the Toya Talks podcast.